Hi everyone, welcome to the first ever episode of Entrepreneur Rush. Why the rush? We've got shit to do. Emil, let's jump right into it. This is a topic very close to our own hearts. It's something that's affected us personally, and it's something we've talked about a lot in private. And now we're deciding to take it on air. So Emil, if you want to become an entrepreneur, if you know entrepreneurship is the way for you, should you take a college degree?
No, the short answer, right, is no, you shouldn't. The long answer is a bit more complicated. I think the issue with the whole college degree entrepreneurship is that people look at it very black and white. And when you ask for a black and white question, you get one, right? Don't take a college degree because you do not need it. The more complicated answer is it really depends on who you are, what you're trying to achieve, things like that. So I think it really comes down to those elements.
So let's start with what we've been talking, I think, the biggest factor here is the financial aspect of this, right? Especially in countries like the US where tuition is so large. What happens if, you remove this cost, I guess, if you live in a country like, if you live in a European country where college tuition is free or...
Sure, yeah. So obviously it plays a big role whether or not you're going to be going into debt, even more so if you're looking to be an entrepreneur, because once you graduate, you're looking to start a company and you really can't do that off the bat with a debt, right? You're not going to have a safe job in front of you that's...
I mean, it's difficult enough to start one.
It's difficult enough to start one without, yeah. So obviously that plays a huge factor. I would say that if you're in a country like the US and you don't have the financial means to pay it off, then you should not be considering it at all. It's straight up just going to set you so far back in terms of starting your company. If you have the financial means, if you're from a country in Europe where it's free, the question is a little bit different. I still don't think the immediate answer should be yes, take a college degree. You're still putting 3-4 years of your life into it, depending on what type of bachelor's degree you're taking. And after that, you might be looking at further education as well. That's a long time that you could be spending out there getting real life practice, out there learning on your own, taking advantage of all the tools that we have today. So again, that plays a factor. It definitely makes it harder for me to say, take a college degree, because if you're going to go in debt, don't consider it at all. But tough question.
So you talked about learning and, getting more skillful, I guess. An entrepreneur is something that really takes a lot of knowledge, skill, and also experience, right?
Sure.
Isn't university or college a great place to basically get this knowledge, to learn, which is what it should be all about?
Yes and no. Again, the question is pretty tough, right? Because of course, college is all about educating yourself and about learning things. I think the major issue that you have is that college in many ways is out of touch with reality. Also by very nature, by the way, when it comes to business, because business is developing so fast. You have curriculums that are, 6 months, 12 months in the past. It's already too late. Marketing is changing week by week. You know that yourself. I mean, Facebook ads that worked for us last month are performing horribly now. Tools that existed in the last update are just straight up gone. How are you going to keep up to date in a book with that? It's just not possible, right? So what can you do? What alternatives do you have? Because I completely agree with you. Education is vital to succeed as an entrepreneur, as it is so many other things. But you have to remember, education and college is not necessarily mutually exclusive. There are a ton of ways of educating yourself, and I am all for educating yourself. I think if you look at just online tools alone, look at Google, you have the single best teachers available everywhere. I mean, you want to be taught how to handle cash flow. I mean, you have leading experts talking about that very topic, people that are likely going to be a lot better than the professors you have available at the school you're going to. And that's another thing, right? Which university are you going to? The value of a top 10% university is significantly higher than that of a bottom 10% university. So even there you have sort of a clash. But ultimately, look, if you're trying to educate yourself, real life experience, starting a company, it's going to teach you so much. I've learned so many things over the years. I'd say what you learn in just a matter of weeks running a company will just blow your mind. And beyond that, you have amazing books online, you have courses, you have coaching, you have tools, you have self-research, all skills that you, by the way, need as an entrepreneur regardless. So why not practice them?
You've talked a bit about what resources, right, as an entrepreneur you can use to teach yourself rather than go to university. But what happens if you want to start a business in a certain field that could require knowledge in chemistry or product development, engineering, and so on? Would it not make more sense to actually take a degree in these fields?
Okay, so I get where you're coming from, right? You want to produce some sort of you want to engineer a product that revolutionizes sound. It puts it into furniture. It does something different like that. And you feel like you need an engineering background to sort of pull that off. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's another one of those where it definitely gives another point for at least considering a college degree. Because if you're going to college to take a business degree because you think I need business skills to be an entrepreneur, you're fooling yourself. You're simply not going to be learning the skills. You're going to be learning how to handle cash flow in companies like Microsoft when you're going to be navigating, turning off fires in a startup with 3 people, 2 of which are probably going to quit tomorrow because they're not getting their salary because they're struggling in other ways. So, up and down, startups are crazy. But yeah, if you're trying to produce a product, or if you know that you want to be an entrepreneur within a certain background, I think taking a chemistry degree could be relevant if you're trying to produce a product. I still don't think it's necessary. It really comes down to the approach. What are your skills? What type of entrepreneur do you want to be? Because you do have the opportunity of hiring someone else that has this sort of background that can help you with product development. It's not necessary to build the company, and you can also still learn enough of the basics to do it. I actually work with a lot of clients that produce these sort of products. I had one guy that actually did go to college, funnily enough, but he took a business degree and he wanted to start a company, and he ended up revolutionizing, so basically the way sound is handled in furniture. So you can now have a couch that's playing music, and that way a lot of people are happier with how it looks. And he had no background in engineering. He went to Silicon Valley. He found an investment in his company. He found engineers that were helping him sort of develop these products. And he told me along the way, right, he wished that he had understood more of the engineering in the beginning, because he made a lot of bad decisions, picked the wrong people for the job. So there, having the background could have helped a lot. At the same time, though, even had he taken an engineering degree, he probably would not be at the level he would want to be to develop this product once graduating. You can't just take an engineering degree, you're straight out of college, and now you're going to be the best in your field. And so if you're trying to revolutionize a product, if you're trying to start a company that does something better than everybody else, well, you're going to need engineers at that level. So even had he taken the engineering degree, he probably couldn't have produced the product, right? So again,
it's a whole team of engineers.
It's a whole team of engineers, right? It's something. So again, yeah, it really depends. It does help having the understanding. I still think you can learn the basics. I think you can ask the questions you need to. And I think it's a lot about people skills at the end of the day. I mean, hiring is not just knowing if they're good or bad engineers. It's, do they relate to my vision? Do they understand where we're going? Do they fit into the culture we're creating? But yeah, ultimately, it's definitely another plus for considering a degree. It's, if you're just going to college to take a business degree to understand the basics, or even I've seen now we have entrepreneurship degrees. I mean, that's just very likely going to be a waste of time.
You're more of a learning by doing kind of guy.
Depends what you're doing, but if you're trying to learn how to run a company, you definitely can't look in a book. That's not going to tell you how to do it.
And so what kind of resources would you recommend then? You talked about Googling this, about watching tutorials, videos, listening to experts speak about this. What about working with, is there anything else you would recommend?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it really, again, obviously depends on your situation. If you're lucky, you might have a mentor that you can rely on, right? I remember my first mentor, he taught me, like, if you want to do something, call someone that's already done something similar and ask him all the steps he took to get there. And, that's pretty good advice. So obviously you're blessed if you have a mentor in your life. Another thing that you can do is get practical experience. Try to find entry-level jobs that do something similar. So say you want to start a food delivery business. Well, a beginning could be go to work at a food delivery business. They frequently do not require these college degrees. Figure out what they're doing well, figure out what they're doing poorly, learn from that, take note, and then eventually you can start your own company and learn as you go along the way. In terms of understanding stuff like accounting and all these other sort of general business things you need to have awareness of, there are a ton of resources online. I mean, all you need to do is a single Google search and you will find, we have Investopedia that's going to teach you the terms. We have YouTube videos that's going to teach you the application. We really have it all available. Go to Amazon, Google Best Business Books. You'll find a whole, series of great books that teach you. So yeah, I think you have the resources. What I really want to talk about, though, is it comes down to what type of person are you? Because what college does offer is a sort of security network. It ensures that every day you know where you have to be going, right? You have these classes, you take those classes. Somebody else took responsibility of telling you what you need to learn, which is for better and for worse, believe me. But it does ensure that you know where you're going every day. So if you're struggling, if you're not good at self-learning, if you don't have the ability to sit down, take initiative, and go research these things, well, then college might be for you, because you might end up just doing nothing, right? And then you're not going anywhere. So self-learning is better in the sense that you take control, and that means that there's really no limit to what you can get done. But college holds the edge when it comes to sort of the security and the sort of idea that you have a plan every step along the way. What I will say, though, finally, because this sounds like, college is great, I'm bad at self-learning, I have to go to college, right? Well, if you're that bad at self-learning and if you can't take responsibility and initiative, you're going to struggle as an entrepreneur. It's a skill you're going to have to learn sooner or later. I'm not saying that, just because you're struggling with self-learning, you won't be a good entrepreneur, but it is worth considering that at some point you have to take responsibility, because once you're an entrepreneur, no one else is going to care. No one else is going to hold your hand. I mean, if you're not going to work, there's just no income. It's just how it is. If you decide to take a sick day when you didn't have to, there's no income. It's that simple.
As people who work Saturdays, Sundays, every day, all day, we might forget this, but college is more than just learning, right? And networks, social networks are good. And how does college have other benefits, I guess, in the social aspects?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's another thing about college, right? You have this sort of guaranteed community of people. You're surrounded by people every single day, and that makes it very easy for you to socialize. So if you, as an individual, really crave that social aspect of life, and you're not very good at mingling on your own or putting yourself out there, then college can really provide a means for meeting other people that hopefully share similar interests if you chose a degree that's relevant to you. So definitely college offers a lot there. Once again, it's a difficult question, because as an entrepreneur, this is a challenge you're going to meet. You have to be able to entertain yourself. You have to be able to put yourself out there and meet people, because if not, you'll graduate college, and then what? Are you going to continuously rely on people? Everyone's going in different angles. What if your social network dies because they're moving? Are you then just going to, stop being an entrepreneur? But yeah, social life is a huge part of university. I would say probably the main element. And I also think there is a bit of networking. You touched upon it very briefly, but there is, depending on the school you're going to very much, there is quality in some of the networks. It will help you in terms of investing, hiring, relationships, strategic partnerships, and stuff like that in the future. So yeah, definitely another reason that you might want to consider going to college if you want to be an entrepreneur, although most people would tell you, just straight up tell you don't consider it at all. I don't think that's the right approach.
Great. So let's sum it up. When should you not take college? What's the main takeaway here? Give us like 2-3 sentences to sum it up.
Yeah, sure. All right. So to make it very, very simple, look, if you cannot afford to go to college, if you will go into debt if you're going to college, don't consider it. It is simply not worth it. You will never, or at least in a very, very long time, become an entrepreneur. You will set yourself so far back, because straight out of the gate, you'll be behind. You'll be struggling. You need to find a job. You need to catch up. And then once you've gone even, then you need to find money to start your company. It's just too much of a struggle, right? So if you don't have the money, don't consider going to college. Second, I would say, look at who are you as a person. Are you good at self-learning? Are you able to take responsibility? Are you ready to be an adult and take care of yourself? Well, then you might not need university the same way. If you're not good at self-learning, well, you might need that security network, or at least you might find it very helpful. And finally, social life in general. If you need to socialize, well, university might be a really good help for you, because it can be difficult coming, as a 20, 21, 22-year-old entrepreneur, starting out, all your friends and doing different things, and you really don't know what you're going to do or who you're going to hang out with. All right, everyone, that's it for today's episode, the first ever podcast on Entrepreneur Rush. Super exciting. We really hope you found those tips super useful when it comes to deciding whether or not to go to college. I sure know I had a lot of considerations when I dropped out of law school. And now's the time to share and subscribe.